food, beer.
That's right.
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to.
Yeah, and you'll kick us out when you want to.
That's right.
Sure, too.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
Hey, and welcome to yet another episode of AT Banter. I am Rob Minot, and today I am joined by Ryan Fleury.
I'm Ryan Fleury.
And that's it. We no Steve Barkley today.
No Steve.
He is out of the country, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, on his way to California.
Oh, terrible.
It is.
I'm sure the weather's awful down there right now.
But he's working. He's not a holiday. So.
Yeah. So, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. We finally got some nice weather. The rain is gone. The coldness is gone. So I'm happy.
Yeah, it is officially shorts weather.
Yep.
Time to break out my chicken legs.
Yes.
And start to get some color, which is generally red. Just burn instantly in the sun.
They have this invention called sunscreen. It's supposed to work really well. I don't use it.
I know, but I don't know. I never feel like I'm going to be out in the sun that long to need it. But, I'm used to when we were a kid, you didn't have to wear sunblock.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't burn within the first 5 minutes. It would actually take a while because we had an ozone layer.
I was just going to say, we actually have a hole in the ozone now, so
yeah,
we
exactly.
burn a lot faster.
No doubt. It's scary.
Yep. Glaciers are melting.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs.
Yep. So, yeah. Welcome to the podcast of sunshine, lollipops and rainbows today. We've 3 minutes in and it's all doom and gloom.
That's right. But we have a show.
That's right. But
we're going to try and lift your spirits.
That's right. That's what we're here to do.
Should we sing a song?
We'll save that for our anniversary show, which is coming up next week.
It is. Dun, da, da, da.
That's right. We're pretty excited.
We are.
We've got some plans. We've got some things in motion.
We do.
Some surprises.
I've got alcohol.
And alcohol is the most important component of any show.
Any good podcast.
Is the alcohol.
Yeah. Should be entertaining.
Well, speaking of podcasts, let's talk about what we're actually going to do today.
All right.
Because it's going to be something we haven't done in a while, which is
a new show.
Right. We don't have a guest today.
We could have.
But
we didn't.
We decided that, this is something we hadn't done. We hadn't actually sort of visited the most recent news and talked about it. So we thought, what the heck, while Steve's away, let's just sit down and digest some of the stuff that's happened over the past week. And this week is an especially good time to do it, given that Google I.O. was just last week.
It was. I watched the main event, whatever it's called, the keynote. Yep.
Yeah, me too.
It was interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so let's dive in and talk a little bit about Google I.O. to start, and what they announced there and some of the implications for AT as we see it, which will be interesting given that, it was just last week we were talking to Victor Sarin from Google Accessibility. So
who was at I.O.?
Yeah, I didn't see his I didn't get a chance to watch his video, but
no. It's up there.
Yeah. We should actually link to that in the show notes this week. But okay, well, let's dive in. So for those people who aren't familiar with Google I/O, it's Google's big event of the year, much like the Apple shows and stuff. I think this is their 7th year doing it. There's some pretty interesting stuff to come out of it and some pretty interesting announcements. So Let's just run down some of the highlights and see what you think. I found, I don't know how you felt about it, Ryan, but I mean, I felt that a lot of their emphasis this year was on AI.
Yeah, there's a big push on AI. They've talked about AI over the last probably year and a half, but everybody now seems to be pushing AI. It used to be, mobile first, cloud first, or whatever Microsoft's saying was, but now it seems to be switched to AI first.
And it kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. And initially, I was a little bit underwhelmed until you start to think about what all the implications of having this idea of AI and a neural network and learning, computational learning, what those real world applications can actually be, and tied to what some of the AT applications of those can be. So, and some of it was a little underwhelming. Like Smart Reply. Like, do you remember him talking about Smart Reply with Gmail?
Yeah, and basically some people on other podcasts I listen to were saying it's available now.
It is.
And it actually brings up a list of selections that you can choose from to do a Smart Reply back to an email. And I think the example they showed on their big screen at I.O. was, would you like to have dinner this week? And it was Saturday, Sunday, neither or either or something. There was 3 or 4 choices. And I don't know if you have it written down the way it was done, but it wasn't that accurate, or not really the way you would use a Smart Reply. Do you have an example?
Well, okay, yeah. Well, I can give you a personal example. On Friday, I went to the movies, and over the course of the day, I was emailing a friend to sort of make arrangements to how it was all going to work. And he was like, okay, I'll come pick you up at around 9. And when I went to reply to him, sure enough, there are these selections at the bottom that said something like, sure, thanks, or another one was like, okay, see you then. So, the AI, I guess, looked at the content and the context of the email, and then gave you some canned responses that you could just click on so that you didn't have to type it.
Right.
Now, I don't know. There's a part of me that is creeped out by that, because I don't like the idea of even, some sort of, machine learning algorithm looking at the content of my email and then like doing the thinking for me. So, I mean, stuff like that, I think is, I guess, neat.
Yeah, I think it'll,
I'm of two minds of it.
Quick replies aren't going to save you a whole lot of time. Really, most of us can type fairly quickly. And I don't know if you're kind of sloughing the person off by doing a quick reply and losing that personal touch. But, I could see where it would be convenient.
Yep. But I mean, really, I guess they really wanted to just use it as an example of, again, of the neural network and how the systems are learning.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing and this is the really exciting part, then they talked a little bit about a new app called Google Lens.
Yes.
Now, this is really exciting, especially when they incorporate it into the Google Assistant.
Google Lens, think of Google Lens as Google Goggles on steroids. It'll have an OCR capability, so you could use it to scan and read something. You could point it at a sign and it would tell you what it is. You can, I think they said that it even does recognition to the point where there's like 0 mistakes in accuracy. So it's pretty phenomenal, the AI or machine learning used to recognize objects. And, things like items with barcodes on it, like it's going to know all that sort of information.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is where, they're working on the inner workings of this AI and the ability for it to learn, like to be able to look at a picture and
tell you who it is.
Tell you who it is, or tell you that, okay, that's a cat. oh, in this picture, it's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you really think about it, I mean, that's pretty amazing in and of itself, that a machine is going to be able to take a look at a picture and tell you what it is. But it goes even beyond that, because when you incorporate it into Google Assistant, you can do things like, and the example that they used at the keynote is they took a picture of a flower.
Yep.
And the app took that picture, analyzed it, and was able to spit out what
type of flower
type
it was.
of flower it was.
So think about it. You could be walking around your backyard, use Google Lens and say, okay, is this a plant or is this a weed? Or is this plant edible? You could be out in the bush. Is this mushroom edible? Using Google Lens.
Right.
And it'll come back and tell you. So instead of pulling out plants, you're pulling out weeds, or, the accuracy is staggering. And, Facebook as well has been using this for about a year or so as well. As a blind person myself, if there's a photo that somebody posts to Facebook, it'll say image of tree in one person or whatever it says. But how cool would it be if Google Lens could actually integrate with Facebook or something else like that and say, okay, evergreen tree and Rob standing next to it.
Right.
Well,
and this is where it gets exciting for AT, because potentially eventually we could get to a point where every single picture on the internet is automatically alt tagged.
Mm-hmm.
Like the system can look at it, identify what's in the picture, and alt tag it automatically.
Yep.
There can be no need for someone to ever be looking at a picture and not have a pure text description of that picture.
It'd be very cool.
And there's also tons of other examples that they use that would be really handy. One that they illustrated as well was taking a picture of the bottom of a router that had the barcode.
To get the SSID and the password. And
exactly.
Yeah.
They just took a picture of it and boom.
Right.
Google Lens imported that directly into the Wi-Fi settings and connected the phone tickety-boo. Like it was pretty amazing. Things like taking pictures of signage.
Yep.
That say has the name of a band and the venue and the time that the show starts, being able to take that, identifying all the key information, and then prompting you, okay, do you want to buy tickets for this show? Mm-hmm. Do you want me to add it to the calendar? Doing things like taking a picture of a front of a restaurant and being able to, give you the menu right on the fly, or give you the phone number, or there's all these elements that would have real IT and mobility potential for people who are visually impaired.
Yeah, and I think, with Google Assistant, Google Home, it's not going to be very long before we're actually having a two-way conversation with our devices.
Yeah,
instead of having to use a keyword to prompt the Google Home or the Google Assistant to wake up and respond to you, it's just going to be, you might start with the keyword, hey, Google, is this restaurant open today? And it'll say, yes, Ryan, it is. It's open from 8 to 4. Would you like to make a reservation?
Yep.
It's just going to be conversational, and we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of this kind of reminded me of the KNFB reader,
Yep.
for example, where you're going to be able to take a picture of something or take a picture of a document, and it's going to be able to, on the fly, it's going to be able to digest that document and spit it back out to you in, through a speech interface.
I've got a stack of LP records over there, and, Google Goggles does okay on some of them. KNFB Reader will do okay on others. But how cool would it be to be able to use something like Google Lens to take a picture of the album cover, and it would come back and say, that's Pink Floyd The Wall.
Yeah.
It would know by the graphics, the stylized text, or whatever.
Exactly.
What that is. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And it's, it sounds like the technology is there.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting. I mean, this was some of the most exciting stuff that I saw in terms of AT potential, because it's huge. There's also, kind of tied into that, it's a different app, but the other thing that really struck me was the AR stuff that they talked about near the end of the keynote, about the VPS. Did you see that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't think so.
It's called the Visual Positioning System, and basically it's an AR, an augmented reality interface on the phone that and I'm not going to be able to explain exactly how it works, but it detects points in space and is able to sort of guide you through, say, a store and tell you what aisle something is in. And so I think that when you take something like this and pair it with the GPS, it could be a phenomenal navigation system for people who are visually impaired.
Well, even, if indoor beacons ever take off, I could walk into the mall. It would tell me walking past London Drugs, Staples, Bed Bath & Beyond. And then I can pick the store I want to go into that store and say, aisle 5, shampoo, aisle 6, electronics,
Well, that's exactly
guide
it.
me through there. So
I think this could even replace the whole notion of beacons.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not real up to date on what this beacon system
there's multiple ones.
actually does. But I mean, with this, there's no reason why you couldn't have a VPS layout of, say, a mall already. And so
Right.
you would it would be able to guide you through the mall, and tell you exactly what store's on your left, what store's on your right. And I'm assuming that the way the VPS system works is that it takes data from basically every single smartphone out there and lays these dots.
Right.
It could be really, really amazing if they can get it to the point where you can leave your house with your smartphone and your guide dog and virtually just be able to navigate anywhere using just those two things. And it doesn't sound like we're that far away from that. So that's pretty exciting too. And I should add that actually, now that I'm reading this this VPS system is actually part of Google Lens as well. So I'm assuming that it will actually be built right into the Lens app.
Right. Did they say when that would be available?
No, they didn't. They said later in the year. So it's hard to say. But that, to me, that was really exciting. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like that has some real serious AT implications.
Anything to make it easier to get around, I'm all for.
Well, sure. And I mean, you remember how finicky that KNFB reader was. It was a great idea, but wow, was it really flaky. Mind you, we were running it, on the Nokia phones back then, right?
Yeah, and they have it now on iPhone and Android. I have it on my phone.
How is it? Has it gotten a lot better?
Yeah, it's gotten way better. But again, I don't use it a whole lot. And really, any OCR is really dependent on the text you're trying to scan, right? So with my LP covers, some of it works really well, and other times it doesn't. Same with Blu-rays. In order for me to be able to know what movie I'm watching, I have to get my wife to tell me what the cover is, because the text is all stylized or it's all graphics, and I want to be able to do this stuff independently. So it'll get there.
Yep. So the other thing that was pretty exciting in the keynote was the demonstration of some of the new features that they are incorporating into the Google Home. Right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where, they've talked about AI for about a year and a half. I don't remember exactly what was in the keynote because I watched it the day of.
Right.
I think there was really nothing magical that they mentioned. It's all just kind of nothing revolutionary, more evolutionary.
Yes.
So,
Well, I think the main thing to take away from the coming features was that they are pretty much caught up to the Amazon Echo. I don't think there's a single feature that the Amazon Echo has that the forthcoming Google Home won't have. Yeah,
I think, they mentioned, later this year, they're going to enable the Bluetooth in the Google Home, which will be really nice.
Yep.
The Amazon Echo has, over 10,000 different skills you can use. Most people will never use them all. They'll use a handful.
That's right.
Same with the Google Home. I really think where both devices have AT ramifications is in home automation.
Yep, absolutely.
I still think, being able to walk into your house, say, turn lights on, turn TV on, turn temperature up or down, is really where things are going to be at for us who have a disability.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the direction that they're pushing. I think that they're pushing home automation. Now seems to be the time. I mean, environmental controls have been around for ages.
Mm-hmm.
But really, they're now pushing that out to the mainstream, which is automatically sort of has all these AT implications at the same time. But I really get the feeling that they're really sort of this year is going to be big for the Google Home. Yeah. I think they're going to overtake. I think they're going to overtake the Amazon Echo, and I don't know. I don't know. They could control the market, because the other thing that you have to remember about the Google Home, and just its base advantage over the Amazon Echo is the Google search engine. Mm-hmm. And the ability to be contextual in your questions and in the responses.
The Google does have the power of search behind it. And I think, even though Amazon is putting the Echo functionality into TVs now, they're going to be putting it into vehicles. I still think Google, if they do it right, and Google has a history of launching stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks and then abandoning stuff, if they really focus on the Google Home, the potential for it is huge.
Yeah, it really is. Especially when you pair all this, these neural networks and the AI, plugging that into the home. I mean, the potential there is pretty huge.
Yeah, and they didn't announce a new Google Home, which, some podcasts I listen to were actually hoping for. But what some people are wanting is, the Google Home actually to be your Wi-Fi router.
Right.
So, I wouldn't surprise me if we see a new Google Home next year that actually has a Wi-Fi router built in. And, it'll be your one device for your home. You connect to it with all your other devices, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. We should take a step back too and talk a little bit about just some of the specific announcements that they announced about the Google Home. But the big one for us is that later this summer, they are releasing it into Canada.
Yay!
So that will be pretty cool.
About time.
Absolutely. But they also talked a little bit about how, and again, this is stuff that I think where they're pushing the envelope, that the Amazon Echo is just not going to be able to keep up. But they talked a little bit about the idea of proactive assistance. And the example that they used on stage was you'd be sitting around and all of a sudden your home would say light up, indicating that
there's a notification or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'd say, okay, Google, what's up? And it would say, you know what, you have this appointment where you have to be at the soccer field at 4, and I'm noticing the traffic is pretty heavy at the moment, so you might want to leave 14 minutes early in order to get there on time.
Yeah.
That's, again, that's AI. That's where these neural networks and the machine learning really shines.
Now, it won't really work for us blind people because we can't see the ring glowing on top of the device.
But, as long as there's a setting where it beeps, which I'm sure.
Yeah, they'd have to do it somehow.
I'm sure there's a way to set that, and I'm sure that they'll think of that.
Yeah.
At least I would hope. God. The other thing that they announced was hands-free calling.
Yes, that's due to come out this summer. And the really nice thing that they announced that the Amazon Echo can't do yet is any calling to landlines and mobiles. Whereas right now the Amazon Echo will only call another Echo.
Really?
Yeah. So if Google does this right and gets it out quickly, they'll be first to do this.
Yeah. That's huge. And not only that, I mean, it has the ability in, say, a family, and like in a household, to be able to recognize different voices.
Yep. You have multiple profiles now.
That's right. So, for example, if, one person says, call mom, it recognizes who you are,
Yep.
calls your mom, as opposed to somebody else saying, hey, call mom, it calls their mom.
Right.
Like,
It's pretty cool.
It is really cool. All in all, I mean, it sounds like if they come through with all this stuff, I think it's just going to stomp on the Amazon Echo.
Well, and I really hope, once it launches in Canada officially, that we're going to have a lot more functionality built in, like being able to order pizzas or order from Amazon or, do some of these other things. So you're not going to have multiple devices, because even right now, the Amazon Echo Dot I see is available from the Amazon store in Canada, but I don't actually know if I can order from Amazon from my Echo and have it delivered to my address because it doesn't know I'm actually in Canada. It thinks I'm in Seattle. Right. So whereas the Google Home, I enter in my address, my location, and it knows I'm in Canada. I'm in Vancouver. So, the Google Home's already ahead in that regards, but I want as much functionality as possible, but only of the items I think I would use regularly, like ordering from Amazon, or being able to, stream media to other devices in my house, which I think you can do already. I think if I had multiple Google Homes, I could tell it to stream to the bedroom.
Right.
Because it'll stream to a Chromecast. So it's getting there. But
absolutely. And I mean, then they also announced a ton of new partnerships, music partnerships and video partnerships, stuff like Spotify and Deezer and SoundCloud. HBO Now is apparently a video partner now as well, so that it'll stream HBO Now to your TV. So it's I think it's playing catch up, and I think they're catching up real fast.
Hopefully.
So, but again, huge AT potential. All this AI and all the, we didn't really talk too much about all the improvements to Google Assistant.
Well, the one big announcement about Google Assistant that I recall is it's now available for iOS. So if you're an iPhone user, you now have the power of Google behind you.
Yeah, which is huge too.
It'll replace Siri because most people I've talked to about Siri, they don't use it or they don't like it.
Right.
So the Google Assistant would be an excellent replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Google Lens is going to be, integrated right into Google Assistant. So again, you'll be able to take a picture of anything in front of you and it's going to be able to identify it.
Yep.
Amazing.
It is. Exciting time.
Let me see what else. There's a lot of other stuff that was just.
Well, I got to say the one thing about Google Photos. I was listening to another podcast on the weekend, and I'll give them a shout out. It's the HT guys, the HD TV podcast.
Right.
And one of the hosts, Braden Russell, was saying that he has all his photos uploaded to Google Photos. And because of the AI Google has built into Google Photos, it actually went ahead without his intervention at all and created a slideshow of one of his kids from the time he was young till the time he was like late teens.
Wow.
And he just saw a notification in his Google Photos. He clicked on it. There was this slideshow that Google automatically created for him of this child growing up through the years. And he was just blown away by it, and he shared it with his family and friends. The power Google has in its AI has the ability to do such things like that, create slideshows for you that you can share. Later today, I'm probably going to start uploading our photos to Google Photos, especially as a backup means anyway, and just see what it does. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they talked a little bit about, they talked quite a lot about Google Photos and the AI. Because, once they roll this out, it can do things like, you'll have a bunch of pictures of a barbecue, say. It's going to be able to recognize who these pictures are.
Who's in the pictures.
Yep. It'll prompt you saying, hey, do you want to send this picture to Chris? Because it's a really good picture of him.
Yep. That's incredible.
Right?
It's just incredible.
Yeah. And some people might say, you know what? Google's doing a little bit too much thinking for me. I want to be more in control of that. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I think I'm a geek, so all this tech is pretty cool to me. But
as a sighted person, you may not care about this sort of stuff. But for me, as a blind person, if Google Photos can tell me that, my wife took a picture and in that picture is, her Uncle Gary and her niece Lisa, that's more information for me, and it starts to level the playing field a little bit more. It gives me that ability to know who's in the picture and reminisce a little bit about that photo. So I'm excited for it.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree 100%. Okay, here's something else that's pretty neat. So they're going to incorporate Google Lens into Google Photos. So you'll be able to, say, take a picture of a building, and it's going to be able to recognize that building and tell you what that building is.
Right.
On the fly.
Take a picture of the Empire State Building and it would tell you Empire State Building.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, once again, it's going to be amazing for alt tags.
Well, even think about... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even think about, the other day, I grabbed my smartphone. It's an Android phone. I opened the camera app, and I was going to take a picture of my dog and cat that were laying side by side. And just imagine how cool it would be to take my phone out, open the camera app, and as I'm moving the phone around, it tells me, one face in frame or whatever the message is. How cool it would be to say, one cat, one dog, or Benji and Kevin in the frame, and then I can take the picture.
Yeah.
Instead of just wandering the phone around, hopefully getting them in frame and being able to take the picture.
Right.
It would be really cool to be able to have that AI built in, and I could independently take photos, even better. So.
Yeah, and it has all the potential that they tried to do with say something like the KNFB reader.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done. It's right here. I mean, you can, again, a blind person can pick up a can of food, be like, oh, okay, what's this? Take a picture of it. Boom. Okay, it's beefaroni.
Yeah, and you can do that with barcode readers, but you're always spinning the can, trying to find the barcodes, and you have to download the apps for it. This is just going to be built into your Android device. And again, the easier it is to do something, the better. I'm all for it. The other thing I talked about, and I don't know if you made notes on this, is Android Go.
Yes, I did.
Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because this actually does have some pretty big potential as well. So Android Go basically optimizes the most recent Android releases so that they would be able to run on low-end phones.
Right, so phones that have 1 gigabyte of memory or less.
Right. So, again, in the past, basically, if you had an older phone, you were just kind of out of luck. You just weren't able to run the most recent version of Android. So this kind of changes the game in that sense. So that's actually pretty exciting as well.
Well, think of the emerging markets as well. I think they gave a number of 2 billion Android phones out there. Android Go, they're hoping to increase that number to 3 billion. If you have lower cost phones with Android Go on it, you're going to sell more phones. Not everybody can afford an $800-900, Pixel. I can't.
Right.
Not every 2 years anyway.
No, for sure.
To get a new phone, whereas you could get an Android Go phone, and it's going to have all the same functionality. It's going to have a lower end processor and a lot lower storage. But at the same time, you could be on the latest version of the Android operating system and still have some of those new features that you may not, be able to afford in the high-end phones. So I think it's exciting. We'll see where it goes, but go Google.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff was pretty exciting. I mean, again, going back to the photos, the other thing that they announced, which I don't know, a little bit gimmicky, but kind of cool, is the photo books option.
Oh, right.
Right, where you can take say that slideshow that you were talking about from the HD podcast. His slideshow, he could submit it to photo books. They'll actually print him a hardcover photo book of that slideshow and send it to him for like $20.
Yep. Yeah, interesting.
Now, they also talked a lot about Android O.
Yeah, it's officially in beta now. I still don't have Android N on my Samsung S5, nor do I think I'm getting it.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I haven't played with the new features in Nougat, and I can't install Android O. I tried. And I'm not going to flash my phone and do custom ROMs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
me neither. I can't be bothered.
No, it's too much work. So, I'll just have to keep watching Google and see what's going on with Android O, and perhaps my next phone will be upgraded or upgradable. But there's going to be some interesting new features.
Yeah. The other announcement that seemed to get a lot of excitement at the event, but I don't know enough about, so I don't really know the implications of this, was the announcement that this new program, or not, I guess it's not a new programming language, but the programming language Kotlin is going to be an official supported language in Android. That seemed to get a real big response from the crowd. So I really don't understand why, but I guess it's a big deal for developers. So yay. Go Kotlin.
Go coding.
Yay geeks, make us some cool stuff.
That's right.
But and then they also talked a lot about stats and stuff, which is pretty interesting. Like, what was the stat? What did they figure? How many devices are out there now?
Well, I think they said 2 billion. 2 billion Android devices.
Right. Yes, that's right. 2 billion. Wow.
Yep. Kicking the iPhone's butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the nice thing with Android is you have your choice of phones. If you don't like the size of one, you can go to a different manufacturer. With Apple, you don't have much choice.
Well, all right. Let's not get into Apple.
Saying,
That's not. We don't want to alienate all our Apple users.
You have choice with Android. iPhones are good. I had 2 iPhones.
Me too.
I had a 3GS and a 4.
Yeah.
I just didn't like using iTunes.
That was my issue as well. But
all right. Well, we have other news stories too.
Yeah, we do.
We should jump into them. We'll have a link to, I think, probably the Google I/O page or Google News Events page in our show notes as well. So if you want to follow more,
I can link to the summary page of basically all the official announcements, and heck, I think it even has a link to the video if you actually want to watch the video.
Right.
So, but some very interesting stuff going on, coming down the pipe. Very exciting. We really need to do a show where we pull out your Google Home and play with it, I think.
The Home and the Echo?
Sure. I mean, we can pull out the Home and the Echo and compare them, but I don't know. After watching this, I don't even think it's worth doing a comparison because, to be honest, I was pretty wowed at what's coming for the Google Home and the Google Assistant in general and what it can do.
Yeah. So I think we'll wait till the announcement that it's actually officially available in Canada.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll, because maybe
there'll be some new features that we can actually take advantage of.
Well, I think I might actually, once it's available here, I think I might get one.
Yeah.
A new generation one, so we can either play with that one, we can play with yours. I mean, I guess can you reset once it's available in Canada? Can you reset yours to actually recognize that you're where you are now?
It knows where I am.
Does it?
Yeah. Yeah, I entered my address and everything, and it gives me traffic updates.
Really?
If I want to say how long it's going to take me to get to work, it'll tell me. It'll say there's minor traffic delays. Yeah, that's the nice thing with the Google Home is I punched in my address and everything else, and it knows where I am. It can tell me what's around me. The Amazon Echo, I punch in my address. It still thinks I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Right, because you had to plug in an American address for it, right?
I punched in my Canadian address.
Really?
Yeah, and it doesn't recognize it because it's, I guess, not officially available in Canada yet.
See, again, I mean, if Google's ahead of the curve in this sense, because we're not the only. What is it here?
New Zealand.
They're this summer they're launching in Canada, Australia, France, Germany, and Japan.
Right.
So I don't know. Amazon.
We'll see.
Falling behind, dudes.
Yep, it's really going to come down to the type of skills you want your device to do for you. You know, both of them support home automation and more different protocols all the time. You know, my big thing is I'm probably not gonna use my home device, my Google or my Amazon to order pizza. You know, my wife and I use the Google Home to play a trivia game that's on there. I just find the Google Home's more intuitive. You know, you can ask it a question. You know, okay, gee, how many species of whales are there in the world?
Right.
And it'll come back and tell you, and then you can just say, okay, gee, which is the largest? It still knows you're talking about whales.
That's right. Yeah, that's the contextual
Yeah.
questions that I was talking about before. You know, it's intelligent enough to be able to have a conversational line of questioning or a conversational question.
Right.
You're going to be able to talk to the Google Home more naturally because the AI is is stronger, and it's a bit deeper. So.
All right, moving off of Google.
Okay, well, hold on. No, wait, but
Come on.
but we should talk.
Crap more.
We really should have a show where we dive into the Google Home and the AT applications for it, because between the Google Assistant, like what the Google Assistant can do now, you can tie in the fact that you're going to be able to tie your phone right into your Google Home. You're able to take a picture.
I can do all that now.
Yeah,
I can cast to my Google Home. If I'm playing a song from Google Play Music on my phone, I can cast it to my Google Home. Same with YouTube. Some of my podcasts, I can cast my podcast to my Google Home. So, I don't think there's going to be a new Google Home this year, but, the launch of it being available in Canada and these other regions, I think it's going to be the same Google Home. It's just now going to have the region-specific information required for that country. So, yeah, we can bring it down here, and we can actually play with it for the anniversary show if you want.
Yeah, or we can just we'll have a Google Home show.
Sure.
So yes, very exciting. I was pretty impressed with what I saw, and I think a lot of AT potential. It's too bad that I missed Victor's. I should actually go back and watch it.
Yeah, and if you can find the video, because it was live streamed as well, maybe link to that in the show notes.
Sure.
Because they talked about some new features in TalkBack, which is the Android screen reader. They talked about something called speech to text.
Okay.
They also talked about some low vision features. So, yeah, it's worth linking to.
Okay. All right. Well, we still got some time. Let's tackle a few other of these stories.
Alrighty.
So let's talk about Windows S.
Windows S. What is it?
Well, sorry, Windows 10S.
Windows 10S.
Windows 10S is essentially Microsoft's answer to Chrome OS. So basically a simplified version of Windows for low-end hardware and, in particular, the education market.
The key to remember with Windows 10S is that you cannot install apps unless they are from the Windows Store specifically.
Right, so no desktop apps.
So no Chrome, no Firefox. You're going to be using Microsoft Edge as your web browser. Yeah, it's very limiting.
It is, and basically it's for the education market.
Yes.
Hands down. The devices that are going to be running Windows 10S are going to run for about $200. They're going to be, the Windows 10S is going to be free for schools that are currently using Windows 10. Yeah.
If you have a disability, we should mention, and you buy a Windows 10S computer, you can actually get a free upgrade to Windows 10 Professional.
That's
without
right.
paying for it. So, again, Microsoft is really pushing accessibility and is keeping us in mind when it comes to upgrading. So, kudos, Microsoft.
Good job. Good job, Jenny LeFleury.
I might actually get one, depending on the specs when they come out, just see,
Sure.
what it's capable of, not capable of, and then upgrade it to Windows 10 Pro.
Does it surprise you that it took them this long though to have a to have something that competes with Chrome OS?
It doesn't surprise me because Microsoft's late to the party a lot of times. They're finally coming out with a Cortana speaker.
Right.
To compete with the Google Home.
Right.
The
Which
Amazon
again, they're
Echo.
late. They're way too late
to the party.
They're way too late.
Apple's
out of the blocks.
talking about doing one now. They're way too late to the party.
Yep.
I really don't know if Microsoft's attempt at a Chromebook replacement is going to hit the market. Chrome, I forget what the numbers were, but Chrome had 60% of the schools or something.
Yeah.
Already, being used. It's really easy for ITs to manage. A new class comes in, they can just wipe the machines remotely and, do all that IT stuff that needs to be done to maintain these systems. I don't know. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for Microsoft.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's an alternative.
Yeah, and hey, you know what? Competition is good.
Yep.
Because it keeps those prices down.
So we'll see. The nice thing about Windows 10S, of course, from a disability point of view, is you're going to have the narrator and you're going to have the magnifier
Right.
and all the accessibility functionality that Microsoft's been working on and pushing. So, you could open it up and have a talking computer right off the bat, and away you go. Install Office 365. And now you've got, your Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You've got a screen reader built in. So it could be a functional machine for people who just want email and internet access.
Yeah, very, very highly portable. I mean, it could be very good for seniors.
Yep.
As well. I mean, not just the education market. It could be a perfect little system for grandma because she can do everything that she needs to do. It's not going to be all that expensive, and it's going to be highly accessible right out of the gate.
Yep, I agree. But I think they're supposed to be out later this summer too, I think, aren't they?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So something else to keep an eye on. What else do we got? Oh, hey, here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this one. This is just techie. This is just geeky.
Geek.
But our good friend, the MP3, is dead.
So they say.
Well, you know what? Hey, look, they said the same thing about records, and I sold all my records, and God damn it, now it's a thing again.
It's right.
I'm bitter about this.
Are you?
A little bit. I'm a little salty. I sold all my records. I converted everything to
cassette.
No, not to cassette. Well, actually, there's part of that component. I was like, when I was a kid, I was slow to convert albums over to cassette because I didn't like the fact that you didn't get liner notes.
Yeah,
you didn't get the lyrics. You didn't get any of that stuff in a cassette, but you got them on the record sleeves. And I just liked records better than cassettes. So, but once, compact discs came around, well, that's when I did the big conversion and just converted everything over to CDs. And then, of course, well, we all know what happened.
CDs have gone away.
CDs went away. So I got rid of those.
I was actually thinking this morning about MP3s and this article a little bit. And, if you're downloading songs from iTunes, they're not MP3s, they're MPEG-4s.
Right.
Where can you actually download MP3s anymore? Apple's MPEG-4. I know there's AAC files out there.
Right. Which is we should mention is the new format.
Right.
That is the preferred new music formatter is AAC.
So I know most of the songs on my, hard drive are MP3, but I couldn't think of a source where I would download MP3s anymore.
No, me neither. And then that's mainly just because, my consumption has changed, right? Like I'm all about
now.
streaming.
Yeah.
And I think that most people are these days.
Right.
I don't think there's too many people that are actively actually downloading.
Well,
MP3s.
especially now with like Google Play Music and Spotify, where you can actually, if you're paying the premium prices, you can actually download for offline listening, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, in general, I think that there's probably not a lot of people who are going to care because I think everybody's, musical consumption has changed anyways.
Right.
But it's more of a geeky thing.
Do you want to read a bit of the article?
Well, sure. And it's actually the creators of the MP3 who have declared it dead.
Fraunhofer.
The Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuits, which is a division of the state-funded German research institution that originally funded the MP3's development in, get this, the late 80s. Can you believe that? The late 80s. Wow. I didn't even have a computer then. I didn't have a computer until probably mid-90s.
Yeah, I got my first PC in 97.
And I remember trying to run an MP3 on my very first computer, which I think it might have been a Pentium.
Remember trying to download it? Beep, boop, boop.
Yeah. Yep.
It would take 20 minutes to download one
At
MP3.
least 20 minutes. It probably took me more like an hour to download U2's Where the Streets Have No Name. And I remember trying to play it on my computer, and it was like, it was choppy. It didn't have, like, my computer didn't have the processing power to actually run an MP3, if you can imagine that.
That's funny.
But yeah, and then, who can forget? We lived through the glory days of Napster, and God, MP3 was just king.
It was.
So, anyways, the Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuit has announced that its licensing program for certain MP3 related patents and software has been terminated. There you go.
So talk a little bit about, the AAC format that they mentioned there.
Well, it says that iTunes and others now favor AAC, which AAC stands for Advanced Audio Coding. They now favor AAC files, and AAC is just more efficient than MP3 and offers a lot more functionality.
I think it's also a higher fidelity. It's not as compressed as MP3s.
That's correct.
So you'll get more of your highs and lows.
Now, this was a weird paragraph in this news story, which I found, surprised me. It says, last year, research conducted by the Audio Engineering Library found that MP3s and other low-quality compression formats essentially drain your music of emotion. The results showed that MP3 compression strengthened neural and negative emotional characteristics, things like shy, scary, or sad, and weakened positive emotional ones like happy, romantic, or calm. Now, that's a bizarre...
Not really, because, well, yes and no.
I mean, compression influences your emotional state?
Yeah, I think it would. Creating an MP3, most MP3s are 128-bit, right? And they've taken the high frequencies, they've taken the low frequencies and compressed it all down so much that you lose a lot of that feeling. If you listen to a higher bitrate MP3 or an AAC file or an uncompressed file altogether, there is more raw emotion. You're hearing the hi-hats, you're hearing the low bass, you're hearing maybe the deeper notes of a cello. It's more emotional. I think it pulls you into the music more. So, a good MP3, if you love the song and it has meaning to you, doesn't matter how compressed it's going to be, you still have an emotional tie to that song. But if you open it up, and you're listening to that same song uncompressed, you're going to be amazed at how much data was actually lost in making that MP3 file.
I see your point. I mean, it's all about context, right? Like if you're if I'm listening to something, on the train through my crappy pair of headphones,
you don't care.
On my phone, it's not even that I don't care. It's just that I'm not going to notice the difference,
right?
Because I'm not in the environment. Whereas if you're sitting at home on your couch and
actually listening,
you've got noise canceling headphones on, and you're invested in the music, that's when you're going to notice that type of difference.
And I think our lives have gotten so busy that we always have music on in the background. It doesn't matter if it's compressed, if it's streaming.
Exactly.
We don't really care about the quality of the music. It's just noise in the background. Yet when I come downstairs here to the Guitar Dungeon and sit on my couch,
right,
and I put on an LP, or even listen to some, good quality MP3s, I'm actually listening. It's not just noise in the background. I'm actually listening to the lyrics. I'm listening to the music. I'm listening to the snare drum in the front left speaker.
Right.
I'm more emotionally invested in the music. And there's something to be said for that.
Yep.
There's a tie there that you reach with the music. And that's why music therapy is so powerful for people and healing for people. There's power in music.
Good point. So, out with the old, in with the new. Thanks a lot, MP3. You had a good run. You brought me much joy. But
now you got to go out and buy some vinyl.
I don't even know. And now I'm just conflicted about it, because now I just feel like now if I just get back into it, I'm just...
You'll be behind the 8 ball, and 6 months from now it'll go out again.
But I have to admit, like, there is something really like nostalgically rewarding about hearing that the needle fall, like, you get that boom, and then
When we're
the
done,
little-
I'll play a record for you over there. I'll play you, my America's Greatest Hits or something.
yeah, yeah.
I got a new phono cartridge and, phono preamp. And the audio quality it's really nice.
I know, I'm with you. Like,
Yeah.
listen, I didn't like the fact that they phased out records in the first place.
Yeah.
I was against it, but you know what? They went ahead and did it
Without your
That's
okay.
right. No one asked me. So I'm
How
still just a
dare
little
they.
bitter about that.
Yeah.
I knew I shouldn't have sold those. Damn it. Why did I listen to my first girlfriend? God,
Well, the record stores are popping up all over the place.
We wanted to move in together and stuff. She's like, well, yeah, I don't have room for all these records. And I was like, well, all right. And so she made me get rid of them. And I listened like a fool.
Yep.
And here I am.
Well, I had none either up until probably 2 years ago when I wanted to start getting back into it again. So I bought myself, an older turntable and started going to some of the record shops and picking up some LPs. And yeah, it's, I don't listen to them every night, but when I do, it's enjoyable to sit down for half an hour and listen to a side of an LP.
Well, luckily, I did not get rid of my hockey bag full of tapes, cassette tapes.
What are you going to play them on?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for cassette tapes to come back. So vinyls come back. It has to be only a few more years where cassettes, or do I have to wait for 8-tracks to come back before cassettes?
I think it's all going to go streaming.
Well, that's for sure.
We've
That's
got
for
4K
certain,
streaming now, so you're going to have high fidelity streaming soon. I think you did with Tidal. I think Tidal was another streaming service that was actually high fidelity music. It wasn't compressed, and we're going to get there. We are getting there.
There you go.
But you're right. With the LPs, it's kind of nice to hear that warm fuzziness sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take you
I
back.
agree. All right. You know what? I think we have time for one more. Let's talk a little bit about the Emma watch, because I thought that was a really cool story that came out last week.
Okay.
So basically, Microsoft released on one of their blogs, and they released a video, a little bit of a story about one of their developers who helped develop a watch that sits on the wrist of a Parkinson's patient that can help deal with tremors. So the watch is called Emma, and it's a wrist wearable tech that can actually help people who are suffering from Parkinson's disease. The device itself is named after a Parkinson's sufferer that helped the developer, a woman by the name of Haiyan Zhang, and I'm really sorry, I probably did not pronounce that correctly, so my apologies. And she's the innovation director at Microsoft Research. The two of them worked together to create the actual device. And what the device does is that, Parkinson's itself is a disease that causes these tremors in people who have it. And as a result, they can't do things like draw or write very well. So with the Emma watch on the wrist, normal writing becomes possible because, well, you know what? They don't even really know why. They don't really understand exactly what it's doing, but the watch itself vibrates and it somehow runs interference with the brain that helps steady the hand.
What's really interesting is we were talking to my wife's uncle on the weekend who he doesn't have Parkinson's, but he has the tremors and shakes. And he was talking to his doctor, and his doctor said, put your hand out. So, Gary put his hand out, and he was trembling, and his hand was shaking. And the doctor said, okay, turn your head away. Don't look at your hand. He turned his head, and his hand was still.
Really?
Yeah. He'd look at his hand again, and it would start shaking.
Well, that they talk a little bit about that in the article, because I guess what they say is happening in the brain is that the brain is kind of at war with itself when you have Parkinson's. So half of the brain is causing the hand to shake, and the other half of the brain is trying to stop the hand from shaking. So the brain's kind of at a little bit of a war, and what the wearable does, because it's vibrating, it gives the brain something else to concentrate on.
Right.
So, the sort of the war stops as it's, interpreting these signals that it's getting from the watch, and that helps the tremors to ease.
Yep. Very cool.
Very, very cool.
Don't know when it's available or the price point yet.
You know what? I get the sense that this is something that's being developed, and it's still early on. I think that this is a prototype pretty much. But, it just goes to show you, again, the power that wearable tech, I think, is going to hold for AT.
Yep.
I mean, I think really going forward, in the next several years, there are going to be a few things that are really going to drive assistive technology innovation. And I think that Google's on top of that. I think that Microsoft is on top of that. I mean, yeah, everybody is contributing things.
Yeah, and I think, smartwatches per se haven't really taken off in the AT field. The Apple Watches, they were kind of, I don't know if I want to say a flop, but they never really took off. The Android watches never really took off. They're all big and clunky. But, if they can start getting some of this technology built into these wearable watches, wristbands, whatever, the implications are really relevant and really huge. And, there's a lot of people out there who could really take advantage of devices such as this.
Well, and, I think that, again, it all comes down to context. I think that the Apple Watch per se was a bit of a flop, we'll say, only because, in the mainstream. I mean, mainstream audiences really, there wasn't enough there for them to really bother with it. But then you take somebody like Molly Watt,
right,
who, and the app that she runs on her Apple Watch, which is called, I believe it's called Resound, it's a game changer for her.
Gives her that haptic feedback and notifications.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible what it adds to her life, the functionality of her day-to-day life. And so it's things like that, I think, that really hold the key to the next generation of AT. From Google Assistant and Google Lens being able to tell you exactly what's in front of you, to a VPS system that's going to be able to navigate you through a mall, to something like an Apple Watch that's going to help you, give you real-time notifications on your phone if you're blind or deaf.
Yep, sky's the limit. We need developers to get out there and make more apps accessible.
Yeah, I mean the tech is there. Now we need the apps.
Yep.
So, and the nice thing about a lot of this stuff is that a lot of this accessibility is now just being built on the foundational level.
Well, and I think that's one thing in the Google I/O accessibility live stream I watched. They were really stressing to developers to kind of think outside the box. When you're developing an app for somebody who is blind, label the buttons in your app.
Sure.
Just something as simple as labeling the buttons can make an app fully accessible. And I don't know anything about coding, but it can't be that difficult to add labels to buttons. You've already done the coding for the app. You've already done the coding for the buttons. Add the coding for a label. And you've got an accessible app that more of the population can take advantage of.
Yeah.
And maybe increase your revenue stream.
Well, for sure. And I mean, and that's, part of me, some of the stuff that they were talking about with the Google Home, because I was watching with a friend and they were saying that, a lot of this stuff is like, oh, you know what, that's just people being lazy. Like, oh, okay, it's great. You can tell your Google Home, hey, order me a pizza from Papa John's, and it'll automatically sort of take your order and submit it online. If you have all your payment information inserted ahead of time, you don't even have to worry about any of that. It just automatically, boom, it pays, submits the order. You don't have to do literally anything except answer the door and take the pizza once it gets there. And, my friend was kind of like, well, that's just people being lazy. And I was like, yeah, but think about it in terms of, say, somebody who's in a wheelchair or somebody who's blind, who's home alone, who wants to order a pizza. And, for them, that's such a seamless experience to be able to do that. Before they would have to fumble with, okay, I got to pull out my credit card and read it. I mean, I'm sure for you, Ryan, right? Like that's
even, I was just sitting here thinking about somebody who maybe has mobility issues or has no hands and can't dial a phone, has to use voice recognition. They could say to their Google Home, okay, G, order pizza from Panago or wherever, and it would ask, what type of pizza would you like, or it would remember your last order. Your payment information would automatically be transferred as well. And it shows up at your door, and Bob's your uncle. It's not just people who are blind or in wheelchairs, or even for people who are lazy. Really, most of us don't have landlines now anyway, so you're pulling out your smartphone to dial a number anyway to the pizza point. What's the difference between using your voice to do the same thing?
Exactly.
You're still making a phone call and ordering a pizza.
Right.
You're making it more convenient for people.
An ease of access.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's an innocuous example, I know, but the potential is there. You're able to see, all this potential for people who may have limited access.
Again, if you're in a wheelchair and your home isn't constructed, in such a way that, you can reach your light switches, or you can, reach things that are up higher than normal or lower than normal, like your thermostat's up on your wall too high. You could have a contractor come in and probably move that for you, or you could get your Google Home or your Amazon Echo, put in a smart thermostat and just dictate to it.
Yep.
Turn temperature to 73 degrees. Again, you've just enabled that person.
Right.
And it's all about enabling and empowering.
Yep. Yeah. So, for, the mainstream audience, maybe it is lazy to just be able to be like lights and the lights turn on. Some people may ask, oh, geez, why do I need that? Like, I don't need something thinking for me. I don't need a robotic assistant, essentially.
Right.
But, again, you come back to AT, it's these things I think are really going to drive the next generation of assistive technology, AI and home automation. Yep. And all these assistants, neural learning and neural nets and deep learning, AI. That's the next gen.
It is indeed.
So
next frontier.
We will be talking a lot about that, I'm sure, in the coming year.
Yeah, and I think probably in the next 6 months or so, we'll get Victor from Google Accessibility on again.
Yeah, I think so.
Just kind of see where things are at.
Part of me kind of wishes that we didn't talk to him until after I.O. because honestly, now I have like a ton of questions. Although, mind you, part of the problem with talking to Victor is that he's working on a very specific segment.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't necessarily have all the answers for all the questions that I'm sure that we would have for him after watching I.O.
Right. Yeah, and accessibility, he'd be your man, but some of the deeper learning stuff he may not know enough about.
But I don't know. I was really excited after, coming out of that keynote speech.
Good things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, well, you know what? We're running late. We talked a lot today.
Yep, we did.
Okay,
right.
So before we go, though, we have a couple shout outs to some people who emailed us over the course of the week.
We do. I'd like to send a shout out to Tony and Tina, who sent us an email regarding our discussion about opening Microsoft Word DocX files. Stephen mentioned you could use Google Drive to do that. And Tony and Tina sent us a reply saying that you could also use DocuScan Plus, which is the scanning and reading program from Serotech,
right,
to open and read those documents as well. So shout out to them. Thanks for the email. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Either did I.
Yeah. So again, our audience is way smarter than we are.
That's right. Thank God.
Yeah. Hey, we also got an email from Michael Boyd, who, he emailed us just to clarify what our RSS feed is, because I believe he uses it, or he wants to use it for his Pocket, his Plextalk Pocket.
Right.
He emailed us, said some very kind words, said we were hilariously funny.
Wow.
Which it's a good thing
Thanks.
Steve isn't here, because Steve his head would really swell.
Yes.
If he heard that. So, but no, appreciate the kind words, and it's nice to know that somebody thinks we're getting the balance of being stupid and actually saying some things of substance. But yeah, he enjoys the show. So thanks, Michael, for listening, and thanks for the email. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Hey, where can people find us?
atbanter.com.
And if you would like to email us and leave us a little note and get mentioned on the air and become super famous, you could do that by emailing atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Twitter.
That's
and
right.
On Facebook.
That's right. On Twitter, I believe our handle is AT_banter.
It is.
And on Facebook, I believe it's just ATbanter, all one word. All right. Well, then, sir, I think that's going to do it for this week.
Excellent. Hope we didn't bore you all too much.
Yeah, I know. We talked a long time. My throat is actually sore.
Oh, you're getting over a cold, too.
Yeah, it's true.
You probably haven't spoken this much all week.
That is true. All right. Well, in that case, everybody, have a good week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see everybody next week.
Bye-bye.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll-free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.